What's up, man? Alright. Like I talked about that wrist position. See how it's bent? Alright. We really want to make sure that wrist stays straight the whole time. And we're actually going to use the forearms to do that. In addition to squeezing the fingertips into the bar. If you keep that wrist straight, it's going to put no pressure on the wrist. The moment we let the bar sit on the palm, the more pressure is going to be on the wrist, the more we're going to feel it in the wrist, okay? So let's have a very strict standard and make sure that wrist stays perfectly straight when we squat, okay? And I talked about having your knees slide back. So as you come up, notice how the knees slide back and you're maintaining your back angle until you pull the hips through, okay? I'm going to slow this down a little bit. Alright, that's a perfect depth. So we want to see that hip crease right at the top of the knee. Alright. And that one wasn't too bad. So we want to make sure that we're sitting our hips back first, which you're doing a good job there. The knees are going to set in the position they need to be in. And then pushing through the feet, the knees are going to slide back a little bit. Now notice on this rep how the knees stay forward. And now the back angle starts to open. Alright. And actually you see the shins sliding forward a little bit more. See how they're sliding forward? Alright. So we actually need the shins to slide backwards. And then after a certain point you're going to pull your hips through, okay? So think about keeping the weight over the middle of the foot. Imagine that there's an imaginary slot up and down with the bar. Okay? Yeah, in this rep we shift it forward a little bit. You can see right off out of the hole, see how it goes forward a little bit? Alright. And now the knees have to stay forward in order to stay balanced. So if you think about keeping the weight balanced over the middle of the foot, like an imaginary slot, and then on the way up. So this one we shifted back a little bit too much. So notice how the bar travels backwards a little bit. Alright. But overall not too bad, man. So I have a clear idea what we need to focus on. I hope you do too, okay? Alright. Same is true with the wrist position. Alright. Notice how it's very, very bent. I talked about getting the knuckles straight up. So the wrist position's not straight up. It's slightly extended. But the fingers are what's going to clamp the bar down in a position, and that's what's going to keep the bar over the forearm, okay? So, let's work on that wrist position. Alright, you're going to have lighter bench press later on this week, so I want it as perfect as possible, okay? Yep, and before you start, you go through a checklist. Feet are tight, shoulders are down and back. We'll get the knuckles up. Big breath in. Before you start, light touching on the way up. I like the leg drive, alright? I could tell that you're really trying because I could see the legs kind of moving around a bit. But it's going to be very important with the bench that you're resetting in between each rep. You're making sure each rep is intentional. And actually, I think I saw your head come off the bench a little bit. Alright, let's just make sure the head stays in line with the rest of the body. We don't want any sort of spinal movement as we're coming down on the bench, okay? And then the deadlift, so I put these notes in here. So we need to make sure that back stays completely straight. And then also on the deadlift, we need to make sure that the shoulders stay slightly in front of the bar. Okay? I also added the bracing techniques into your warm-up, so I need you to make sure that you're doing that every day before you train. And making sure that you're breathing into the belly and you're bracing. Alright? So with the deadlift, like I said, it's very important to make sure your back is straight. The shoulders need to start in front of the bar, and you need to push that ground away with the feet, okay?